Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fandom Fridays, where we proceed to check out all the fanfics that are not Pony related. Why? Because Sunset's fic is still going on, and good golly, we don't need a time for a break. I don't know if you guys know this, but I really love the Disney Hercules movie. It's one of my top 10 favorite Disney movies of all time. Love the music, I quote the lines repeatedly, and I've watched the TV show. It's great. However, I've always been curious. Why didn't the TV show ever do the myth of Persephone? They did every other myth. They joked about Orpheus. They talked about the myth of Agamemnon. They talked about Thor. Hell, we even got to see some of the Egyptian gods. So, why not the myth of Persephone? Well, aren't I happy enough to find out and discover, much to my enjoyment, that yes, there are people out there who write the myth of Persephone. As such, we're gonna read that fic today. Please stay here, why don't you, while we here at the Treeberry Memorial Library are proud to present Hope Springs Eternal, a Subterranean Romance by Quantum Witch. Hope Springs Eternal, a Subterranean Romance by Quantum Witch. Wow, that screen name actually makes sense. That's so rare these days. Chapter 1, Diabolic Simpatico. It was just another perfect day on Olympus. Same as the days, weeks, and years, in fact a millennia before. Except for a minor disturbance about 5 years ago, things almost never changed. The minor disturbance in question, an unsuccessful coup attempted by Hades to overthrow Olympus and usurp Zeus's throne, had been quite a topic for conversation for days afterward. The damage caused by the rampaging titans had healed completely, but of course clouds tend to bend back into shape without any special help. At first, there were heated suggestions to hunt down Hades and bring him to justice, but Zeus vetoed this. Though he too had been surprised and angered by the assault, he believed it to be just one more in a long line of things his brother had done for attention. True, it was the most drastic thing anyone could imagine, but it obviously was Hades' ultimate plan. Since it had failed utterly, the big baby had run home to sulk. Hercules had brought news of Hades' complete defeat, how he knocked the dark god into a pit of fire. Zeus was certain he wouldn't see the Lord of the Dead around for quite some time. And even if they did, there were no more aces up his sleeve. There was nothing more he could do to threaten them all, ever again. However, to allay any fear, Zeus made a formal decree. Hades was officially prohibited from entering Olympus and bumped off the Great Council. The other gods had agreed with this wisdom, and now things had settled to the usual routine of lazy recreation, blissful indulgence. That's the way everyone liked it. However, the whole incident caused one deity to really think about Hades' motives, start contemplating what his personal feelings might have been, to recall his long sad history of isolation. One deity began to sympathize with the dark god of the underworld, something no other Olympian had done. That one deity was Cupid. Though he never pretended to understand what went inside Hades' minds, nevertheless he, of all people, could spot the lonely soul of Hades. So he began to formulate a theory which led to a plan of action, so that it might change Hades once and for all, bring Olympus permanent peace and quiet. Shoot Hades with a love arrow and let the chips fall where they may. Okay, he wasn't quite so cavalier about his job as that. People may have thought he was, but he truly cared about the finer points. He was often the scapegoat for disastrous relationships. Well, it was always the ones he had neither had no involvement in with the first place, or the ones that weren't gone on much longer to attend it. Humans often blamed the gods for every little tiny thing that went wrong. He was used to it. His powers were also quite capable of offending gods, and that usually meant he was carried out outrageously. Gods preferred to make their own decisions, and he was one god who could make a decision for them, whether they like it or not. He found this amusing since he never intended to use his powers on another god in the first place. Although Zeus still tried to blame arrows for his own stupid actions. Now there was justified reason to interfere. And so, the winged god worked up all night to prepare for his attack. He dragged out his entire arsenal, deliberating over the caliber of arrow to use. He carefully mixed the love potion to be inserted to the arrow's tip. Since chemistry between people was the most important factor, the formula had to be just right. He had many types of potions. Some of which were standard fare of most use in humans. Infatuation, devotion, crush, usually on high schoolers, unrequited, one night stand, etc. Sometimes he felt like his mother, with her line of commercial cosmetics and perfumes, but he absolutely couldn't afford to have it wear off too fast, since Hades was a tough nut to crack. So he chose the most powerful and enduring potion of all. He set Crosshair on Cloud Sierra's mother's sumptuous home, Cloud 9, polishing up the Eris Arrow, that trademark, and filled with potion, chuckling himself mischievously. When it was bumped to a suitably high gleam, he held it aloft, declaring, "Ha ha! It's done." His mother, Aphrodite, the goddess of love, was not expecting that. Like nicely lounging on her cloud sofa, waiting for her workaholic husband Hephaestus to finally leave the forge to come home for dinner. She was reading the latest comedic scroll by Aristophanes, chuckling occasionally to herself, though she mostly loved seeing her own name in print. When her husband spoke aloud, he raised a perfectly shaped eyebrow. "Why so excited? It's just an arrow." "Looks can be deceiving." Cupid grinned, letting the purplish red arrow begin to piss his product profusely. "This one's very special. The tip is filled with a time-release capsule of undiluted true love serum, guaranteed to melt even the coldest, hardest heart in time. This bomb is a real super arrow." He struck a heroic pose, wings extended, arrow held to the sky. It's a flame he requested heavenly choir to strike up, in the spotlight to shine down on his grand achievement. Fortunately, his cherubs, the muses, and Apollo were all busy elsewhere. Aphrodite stifled a laugh, stretched her tall, rosy form, fluffed her long gold hair, and rose from her couch, though it was still mostly clung to her exorbitant curves. "Interesting idea," she said sincerely as he came for a closer look. "Should be good for those hard-headed cases. As I've always said, everyone desires to experience true love." "Couldn't say it better myself," Cupid said slyly. His infamous dimples deepened, and his eyes twinkled brightly from beneath the maroon bangs, which should have been ample warning of the mischief he planned. "So, who's the guinea pig?" Aphrodite queried, not noticing the gleam. "Some grouchy old king who's never been in love with anything but his own power?" "You could say that," Cupid drawled nasally and casually. "My target's Hades." It took a full 3 seconds for that to register in Aphrodite's mind. The first seconds he merely nodded, not truly aware what she actually heard. The next second she turned her stare into disbelief at Cupid. The final second reduced her to hysterics, leaning against a pillar and laughing herself sick. His pink skin flushed red. Cupid said in a tight voice, "It's not funny." She righted herself, wiping away mirthful tears. As he looked more closely at her son's face, he took out, "Oh my God, you're serious?" "Yes, I am," he declared heatedly. "It's my theory that if he had no true love, he would never become so evil." "Your theory? Oh, please." Aphrodite rolled her huge azure blue eyes. "This is Hades you're talking about. I don't know if he was capable of love, super arrow or not." Cupid narrowed his own violent eyes at her. "So, you don't think I could do it, is that it?" His challenged tone could have been a second warning. She missed it as well. "I did not say that," she protested. "You do doubt me, don't you?" he demanded, pointing accusingly at her. His fingers ruffled angrily. "Oh, stop it." She frowned, putting a tiny crease on her perfect lips. "I just can't imagine any girl who'd want Hades to be in love with her. Can you?" For a half second, Cupid opened and shut his mouth, trying to find a suitable response. How could have you skipped the most important detail? In his pursuit of the perfect formula, he neglected to find the perfect girl. He stopped and admitted the truth. "Good point." Aphrodite was pleased he saw the wisdom of her words and the error of his ways. Sometimes his enthusiasm carried away, as he felt he needed reminding of the fact that his powers, though massive, were still developing as he aged. Every goddess knows Hades' reputation all too well. We'd all rather stay single for eternity than to be stuck with him. Cupid flinched as the salt poured over the wound. "Oh, right, you made it clear." "I mean, frankly, it would take a goddess who'd never met him," she continued, oblivious to her son's pointed ears. One who's been locked away on an island or something her whole life, and even start thinking about, I get the picture! He finally shouted. We stopped her in her tracks. Aphrodite blinked in surprise. No need to yell, dear. Further discussion was interrupted by cacophony of voices outside her door. The voices were mostly curious and friendly, but it was still unusual. Almost nothing new ever happened on Olympus, unless if you didn't count the recent months. The two love deities settled their differences for the moment and went to investigate. Outside in the courtyard, a fairly large crowd had gathered around Demir, sweeping them all forward. She was delighted by everything that had transpired of late. Not only had she made a momentous decision in her own life, but she had also become a full council member, instead of merely an alternate, taking over the seat once held, unjustly she felt, by Hades. And now, she had news that would shake the gods in a good way. Distant gods and goddesses, I have an important announcement. One that was long overdue. Green-skinned, full-body Earthmire, unless as the fairy feels he presided over, smiles everyone could inquire. 2 days from now, as you know, is the celebration of first harvest, the midway point between summer solstice and autumn equinox. I'd like to also inform you that this springtime was my last one. This led to gasps of surprise and worry, whispers of confusion. But Demir held up her hands and silenced them again. Because, she continued, as of next year, my daughter Persephone will take over as goddess of spring. One gentle puss she produced said daughter, who'd been hiding behind her mother's ample frame. Persephone grinned nervously, waving generally to the crowd. She really didn't want to be there. Wished she could melt through the cloud floor. Realized she probably could, but would never hear the end of it from her mother. Demir went on, most of you have not gotten to know Persephone. I do apologize for keeping herself so long. I've been a bit overprotective, I suppose. Persephone turned slightly away and rolled her eyes. Oh, if only they knew the half of it. Unaware, Demir soon. But until she returns to our secluded home in Nyssa, please make her feel welcome on Olympus. She opened her arms wide, encouraging everyone to welcome her daughter to the bosom of their society. The gathered gods and applauded and milled about, greeting and congratulating the young goddess on her appointment. Persephone frequently wished for another titan to wander by and start a ruckus. Anything to distract the crowd so she could run for the hills. Cupid watched Persephone closely. He met her a few times, but the last time he had actually paid attention was several years ago. She really grew up since then. She'd always been lovely, but now she had been as beautiful as his own live goddess mother, with bright golden skin like sunlight, large eyes as blue as a cloudless sky, knee-length, lacy scarlet hair capped with a pink flower-shaped headdress, and a lithe figure in flowing white kaftan, nearly covered by modest rose-colored pimples at the shoulder. Yeah, she was a total babe, but he knew better than most. Beauty wasn't everything. He'd been looking more at her reactions to the situation, seemed to be the only one aware of her discomfort. The look she angled at Demir, as she said, wasn't anything for herself. Cupid knew how stubborn the elder gods could be. She was willing to bet that Demir still treated her like a child, when she clearly was not. Also willing to bet the younger goddess would do anything to get out from her mother's green thumb. He pondered it over to 2 or 3 times he'd seen her at various get-togethers. Called Demir's habit of leaving quite early. Most recent times she had been 13 or 14 years ago at the wedding of Peleus and Thetis. Gods, what a disaster that was! If you remember correctly, Hades had shown up for a short while, arriving just at the same time Persephone had been dragged home. Cupid had a sun-sharp memory of how the dark god's eyes widened when he seen her, how he stared almost unblinking, silent and breathless, a look of sweet pain on his face until she was out of sight, how he hinted casually for information about her afterward. Hey, wait a minute. Hades had never looked at anyone that way before. Now, what was it Aphrodite had been saying? What had Demir said moments ago? No way, this was a coincidence. Cupid was one of the few gods on somewhat friendly terms with the Fates, and occasionally done a bit of dirty work for him, though he didn't discuss it openly. Years ago, they told him that one day in the future, he had to do something no one else would approve of. He would strike the heart of death and bring it to life. He narrowed his eyes, thinking, God of wintering death, the goddess of lively springtime. And what a mixed name she had. Persephone, life and light, combined with sacrifice and killing. What had Demir been thinking when she named her daughter? Probably not this. Yep. Carbonic needlepoint was stitched all over this one. A huge grin spread across his face like a hungry wolf at an all-you-can-eat game buffet. Talk about divine intervention, he chuckled half to himself. Standing beside him, Aphrodite had of course viewed the scene in the Olympian courtyard differently. And no such thoughts entered her mind. In fact, the most prominent thought had been, what a shame. She's so pretty and that outfit really doesn't flatter her at all. I could give her a kind of fashion tips. But when her son spoke aloud, she spent 3 seconds of contemplation. First, nodding blankly. Next, her eyes grew wide in realization. And third, she nearly gave herself whiplash as her head snapped in his direction. An absolute horrified gasp on her lips. You wouldn't dare! Cupid, already halfway where he let the superhero lie, laughed. Ha ha! She fits the profile like she was made for it. In fact, I'm sure she was. Aphrodite frantically followed, whispering harshly, No way! The mirror would kill you! Cupid shrugged. Hey, I'd risk it for all for love, wouldn't you? She groaned, holding her head. Oh gods, no, this is not a good idea. Genuinely serious, he replied. You said it yourself, Mom. Everyone deserves true love. He dared her to contradict herself. But, yeah, well... She faltered. Searched for some way to take back her deepest held philosophy, but she couldn't find one. Then she spoke more firmly. Look, this girl can't be the right one for him. She's obviously too young and way too innocent. If this is the deserve of love-struck Hades, dragging her off to the underworld. No one does! She dared her to prove her wrong. But Cupid knew he was right. Sensed it with every beat of his ear-piercing, love-making little heart. The fates had put his path and agreed to it. Smiley just wasn't giving things a fair chance. Too young? He scoffed. Not! First of all, she's clearly old enough to be making her own life decisions. Have you forgotten how I lobbied 6 years ago to get the age of self-reliance changed? 21 was just way too old. Even mortals are considered an adult long before that age. There had been a majority council meeting back then, which before Cupid and Hebe, gods of youth and age, had presented a most convenient argument. Allow all gods of his generation an earlier release into adulthood. Hades was moved back to 14, which truly made sense because that was when their full powers began to manifest. Cupid himself was 19, and had been willing to wait any longer for his own apartment and a little privacy. Yeah, I know. Aphrodite rolled her eyes again. You go your own way, do your own thing, and have your own space. So how come you spend half of your time at my house, eating my ambrosia, using my laundry facilities? The light is better here for my work, he protested half-heartedly. Besides, this isn't about me, it's about Persephone. Right. And the way you want to ruin her whole life? Aphrodite crossed her arms, still unconvinced. Well, what will you know about her life? He crossed his arms right back. You've never even talked to her, have you? Aphrodite wavered. Well, no, but... Once again, looks could be deceiving, so let me be the judge. Cupid knew his mother was still unsure, but she couldn't always sense things like he could. So ways people have right or wrong for each other. In fact, he had a few ideas about her own love life he learned to keep to himself, so he never appreciated his comments. She might have been the love and beauty goddess, but she spent her time making the atmosphere of love better or worse, not finding the right combinations. That was his area of expertise, and she knew it. But, Aphrodite began, it should still be fairly obvious, especially to us, she's a virgin goddess. Maybe not officially, but definitely innocent and untouched. Her eyes narrowed at her son at the thought of Hades. And although many men, both gods and mortals, may fantasize by taking such a thing from a girl, that doesn't mean the girl wants to give it, right? Cupid grunted in agreement. Then he compromised in a way he could still win. Yeah, okay. How about this? I talked to her a while, get to know her better, figure out what she wishes for her life. You know I can see right through people, if I want to. Part of my powers, sensing the true desires of others, right? Then, if I still think she's the right choice, which I do, I go stealth radar target Hades, and no one will ever know I'm involved. Aphrodite looked at her confident, smiling, sincere son and felt her heart sink. She realized too late that Cupid was absolutely determined to shoot Hades. Had been all along, and now he had chosen the intended subject of his affection as well. There was no stopping him. He also knew what he said was only fair, because Hades probably did need a little love in his life. In fact, it might be the very thing to improve the god's overall mood. He couldn't personally recall Hades ever being in real love before, though he certainly had a case of the hots for her a few times, hadn't everyone? And while he had been particularly unsure of himself at first, he became much more obnoxious, yet still never pushed beyond tolerance. Strange, he thought, maybe he wasn't a total brute in every respect. But still, this insistent case of spring fever, pun intended, might be dangerously unpredictable. She too was a mother, and could sympathize with Demeter on that front. She seriously doubted the Earth Goddess would thank them for messing up her sweet young daughter with such a bitter old coot. Even no one had seen Demeter lose her temper. Such a thing would probably push even the mildest of gods over the edge. Her face resisting her concerns, she sighed, I don't know. Just reading her hesitance, Cupid thought that she was still challenging him. So he challenged her right back. And I'll pay you centuries worth of Hades' finest nectar, I could pull this off. Aphrodite shook her head, resigned. She let him find out the hard way. Better not come crying to her when all hell broke loose. Literally. I can't tell I'm going to regret this, but okay. Yes! Cupid hooted. Shook hands with her and over the deal and started victory jig. Aphrodite moved to the doorway again. Well, you better get going, she said lightly. Looks like Apollo's already putting the moves on your little target. What? Cupid squawked as he dashed the door, in time to see the brawny, purple-skinned, part-time sun god suavely smiling at the young goddess. The scent of intended conquest practically oozing from his pores as usual. Persephone's expressive, infinitely polite, barely concealed revulsion was clear to Cupid, but completely overlooked by Apollo and Demeter, who stood tearing out happily both. When Apollo took Persephone's delicate hand in his beefy big hook, he intended to kiss it, Cupid practically fumed. Hey, you oversexed jerk! I saw it first! Half running, half flying, the love god scampered out to join and interrupt. Aphrodite, still standing in the doorway, watched the tableau with a sense of doomed amusement. Her bosom heaving expressively, she sighed. This is going to be a long summer. Well, this seems to be an interesting take on the whole Titan mythology. I like that this seems to be really well researched and delves deeper into combining the traditional myths as we know it, plus some of the myths that point out in Disney. Now, I know some people can be a little antsy or nitpicking when it comes to the Disney myths. Oh, it's been Disney-fied and yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. The truth is, people, the Grecian myths have been told and retold and redone and reinvigorated so many times over the years that we have no idea what the original stories were like. That's why they're myths. Hell, have you seen some of the Steve Reeves Hercules stories? I don't think they're probably accurate either. Hell, we've had Hercules face off against the Moon Man. I think Disney has a chance to put their own little spin on it. So, there we go. And I kind of like the way that this is actually discussing Hades' role and giving him a chance to explore romance. If there's only one complaint I've had about Disney's Hercules, it's the complaint I always have whenever somebody brings in Hades into the from mythology. I.e., they treat him as a literal devil, the cruel one, when Hades isn't really hell so much as it's the underworld. It's where you go when you die. Sometimes you might get punished, other times you'll wind up in the Elysian Fields. Paradise. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But it seems like a lot of people, when they want to interpret Hades, want to bring in the fire and brimstone. Brrr. So I kind of like this. And I've looked ahead, and it looks like there's going to be some good musical bits. I might come back to this later, but for right now, this is really interesting. I'll probably go read it on my own. One down, thousands more to go. See you next time.